As your opponents get more aggressive and start raising a wider range of cards pre-flop, and even stealing the blinds more frequently, you have to do something. You have to defend against that aggression. And you usually would do this by re-raising pre-flop. A pre-flop re-raise is also called a 3-bet. That might sound funny. You might think it should be called the 2-bet, because after a raise, the re-raise is the second bet, right? Well, it turns out the blinds are actually referred to as the first bet, pre-flop. So the raise is the second bet, and your re-raise is then the third bet, or the 3-bet. All 3-bets exist on a continuum. At the top, when you re-raise pre-flop with your most premium hands, it's called a value 3-bet. But you can also re-raise, of course, with any hand in the deck, all the way to a bluff. A 3-bet bluff is called a light 3-bet. Sometimes you do this with complete air, but most of the time a light 3-bet is actually a semi-bluff, meaning you have fold equity, your opponent might fold pre-flop, but even if he calls, you have outs. You have a chance of improving to be the better hand. Against a tight player, your value 3-betting range should go from ace-ace down to about jack-jack and ace-king. If the raiser is looser and more aggressive, you can lower your 3-bet value range to include hands like 9-9 and ace-queen. When we think about light 3-betting, we're thinking about cards like pocket pairs or suited connectors. Hands that are definitely behind now but have high implied odds, meaning if we get our lucky card on the flop, we might even get the whole stack of our opponent. In between our light 3-betting range and our value betting range, there's actually a dead zone. Hands that we can't 3-bet light. Of course we can't 3-bet them for value, they're too weak, and we don't want to 3-bet them light either, because we can't stand to get called. It's hands like Jack-Queen, these middle Broadway cards, or King-Queen. When we get called on a light 3-bet with these cards, we're usually dominated, and that's a terrible position to be in. It means our opponent against Jack-Queen might have King-Queen, or against King-Queen might have Ace-King. We only have 3 outs, or less. So with these hands, we happily fold them. If they are suited, you can consider just flat calling for your flop value if you're in position and you think you have a skill edge on your opponent. When attempting a 3-bet, you have to keep 3 crucial things in your mind. The first is your opponent's range, the range of cards that he's likely to have raised with pre-flop. As we saw when we drew that range diagram, the same 9-9 or ace-queen against a loose opponent could be a value 3-bet, but against a tight opponent, it's actually a fold. Next, you have to think about balance, meaning you need to vary your play. If you only always value bet the top premium hands in poker, your opponent's going to know that your 3-bet represents this range, and they're going to be able to play you really easily. They'll re-raise you with aces or kings, and with anything less, they'll probably fold, and you'll miss out on a lot of value when you get lucky and get one of these starting hands. Finally, your light 3-bets, your bluffs and your semi-bluffs, need fold equity. They need fold equity to be profitable. If fold equity sounds strange to you, go back and re-watch our video on the topic. The reason you need fold equity is that when your light 3-bets get called, you're too far behind on the flop on average. So to offset this equity disadvantage on the flop, you need to add in that percentage of times that your opponents fold a better hand pre-flop. The last thing you need to be aware of before going out to the tables and trying 3-betting on yourself is the size of the 3-bet. This is pretty simple. Follow a rule of thumb here. If you're in position, your 3-bet should be 3 times the original raise. So if our player at this example table, if he bet 100 pre-flop, just stick in your 3-bet to 300. As simple as that. If there are callers though, it complicates the issue a little. You need to further discourage action. So add for each caller the quantity of the raise. So in this case, there's one caller times 100. So we add 100 to our original 3-bet. So we'd bet 400. If you're out of position, you have to compensate for your positional disadvantage throughout the hand. So we want to discourage action even more. Our minimum 3-bet here is 4 times the raise. And continue to follow this metric for each caller.